Yeah, and then I got out, man, and I was just like, oh, dude, I was done with that crap, man.
Isn't it crazy how there's times in your life where there's like, it's monumental, where you have this, it seems like in guys, and or maybe in women too, but early 20s, mid 20s, you have some experience. Maybe it's like waking up from going to college, or having a time like in the military like you did. For me, I took a year-long trip around the world, traveled around the world, read a bunch of books, went by myself, went surfing everywhere. And it was just one of the most monumental times in my life. It was a time, it was sort of like, you know, in our culture today, we don't have any rituals or progressive circumstances where people move from one state of living to another. Like you graduate, like, you know, in school, it's kind of a complete joke, because the idea of graduation from school is all crazy, but the idea of just graduating and moving from one level to the next, like martial arts, that's super cool. But we don't have that in our culture. Like we have Boy Scouts, and that's kind of cool to move up the ranks. But for me, it was just going out, and it had nothing to do with school, but taking a year off and traveling and just reading, thinking, being by yourself. This was before smartphones. It was before it was during cell phones, but before smartphones. And so I was just by myself with books in hotel rooms and hostels by myself. Didn't know anyone. Some country, I had no idea where I was going to go. Showing up in the middle of the night, but I got my books. I can go get a room and just think and contemplate, and then just go to like 13 or 14, 15 countries and meeting new people. I mean, these are experiences that, like, you know, this is where you grow up. This is
same
like, with you in military.
It starts to really like change. It starts to click. Yeah,
totally.
Exactly. Because all the information is in your head already.
Yeah.
Just hasn't clicked. And there's so many things that don't make sense in life that you just kind of pass it off as like, well, there's experts who understand that types of stuff. And there's this general assumption that the good guys are in charge here, and
I'll trust them.
Yeah, you just trust them, and it's really like lazy. You just don't really, you know, care to look for yourself. Other people are taking care of that. But you know, if you just have that time to think about all those things, the information is all there, and over enough time, then it just like clicks into place,
and you figure out who
and
the
it
hell
all
you are.
makes sense.
And what you're doing, and it makes sense. Your life starts to make sense. You start realizing, like, you halfway through your time in the military, you're like, dude, maybe I could have, you know, I can create art, and I'm good at making surfboards or fixing them. For me, it was, you know, figuring out what I wanted to do and reading books and contemplating and learning about life and my whatever the hell my role is in life. And you know, you don't get that going through this structured thing that we call school, because you're with all your friends and you're partying, and it's just like this numbing.
It's like, you know,
it's weird.
It's weird. It's like this like flash of distraction, and there's never really any downtime for your mind to really like go, okay, let me figure those things out that don't make sense to me. Like you got the time to just sit there and just think about that type of stuff.
There was this guy that John Taylor Gatto referenced. I forget who it was, but there was someone who came up with the idea of extended childhood. And he was giving all these examples of kids.
I'm on that program, I think.
I know, right? Totally. But it's just like this extended childhood where, you know, he gives all these examples of these kids that were, you know, giving these grown-up tasks at like 12 and 13 years old, in charge of armies and in charge of like platoons and in charge of these groups of people that are filled with adults, but these kids are like 12 years old.
How'd they do?
They did awesome.
Yeah, I believe it.
You know, and it's like, but when you have kids going through school, their adolescence, that's what he called it, extended adolescence. And this idea of adolescence is some sort
like
of made up
thing. Like, it's so crazy.
You're saying, like, after the age of 7, you're an adult, basically.
I totally think so too. I think that our kids were just inhibiting some of our most brilliant creative minds, and our kids, I mean, if you have a kid and you raise them on your own and they're just free to do something that they want to do, I mean, they're gonna start working on something like so passionately and just diligently, up in the morning, excited about it, working all on day, it with that
all night,
googly eye, you know, look in their face, and they're just so stoked, and they're gonna keep going. They're not gonna start drinking, getting all jacked up on drugs. They're gonna be so pure and just focus on their idea, and probably by the time they're 15, they'll be making more money than their parents for sure. And if they're raised properly with the right mindset on how money works and things like that, like, they could become millionaires, billionaires by that age.